Hey team, Mitch here. Going into the third video recap, we're going to talk about hydration and nutrition and what I carried on me that fit into my race vest. From there, for the hydration, I carried two 400ml bladders and two 250ml bladders. From there, for the nutrition, I carried two Ziploc bags full of Allen snakes and pythons, two Cliff Bars, 4 goos, and then a packet of Hydrolyte. For the breakdown of hydration, in my two smaller bottles, I had 12 grams of carbs and 125 milligrams of sodium. And then in my two larger bottles, being these two, I had 28 grams of carbs in each and 900 milligrams of sodium. The biggest factor for my hydration was that we knew from start to the first checkpoint was going to be approximately 4 hours. That is due to the terrain and the elevation that we were hitting. From there, in training, we mostly worked with carrying 500 mils of electrolytes and water on us, but then we factored in the extra 500 mils due to the heat, and after training we discussed that we might have a little bit extra just in case we do get more fatigued than anticipated after the 1000 meters of elevation within that 10K period that I was spoken about in other videos. So within that, the carb breakdown was from Powerade, and then the sodium breakdown was just from Hydrolyte. I mixed the red Powerade with the orange sodium, with the orange Hydrolyte, and it worked well for me. It didn't irritate my stomach at all. Going into the nutrition, I carried 2 bags of snakes in the Ziploc bags, and that was 100 grams of carbs in each bag. From there, I carried 2 Cliff Bars, and they had 84 grams of carbs in each, plus some sodium. And then I carried 4 goos. How I was going to work this all into the timings was in hour 1, hour 2, I was going to have the 250ml bladders, and then hour 3 and 4, I was going to have the 500ml bladders. With the nutrition, first thing I did was around a 40-minute mark, I had half a bag of snakes, and then the next 40 minutes I finished a bag off. So I went on roughly a 40-minute time frame for the snakes. And then as soon as we got to the elevation gaining on the first half of the checkpoint, I had a Cliff Bar whilst I'm walking, because a lot of people do say that it's hard to eat whilst you're running. So I mainly had that so I had one when we're doing the elevation climb, and I had the second one in amongst our rest periods whilst we're doing a walk, run game plan. From there, I had the goos. They were mainly backups for if I didn't really feel like having lollies, or if I didn't really feel like having a Cliff Bar, I just smashed a quick goo as a bit of a top up. The biggest thing I want to talk about in my selection for this was, in all my training, I had Hydrolyte and Powerade. I knew it sat well, and I wasn't concerned about that for the actual race. Same thing with the Allen's lollies and the goo brand. People say this is quite hard to get down. I didn't mind it, so I just stuck with it, and then I just game planned where I was going to have a Cliff Bar. A lot of people have different opinions on what they eat, but the biggest thing I want to talk about is whether it was the Powerade and the Hydrolyte, or if it's the snakes, Cliff Bar and goo. I tried that all through my training. I tried it on all my long runs. I even tried it in amongst my speed sessions to see how it sits in my stomach, and I had no dramas at all. However, one thing I don't recommend is not prepping yourself in what you're going to take. So don't wing it, don't leave it to the last second, but try and figure out how you're going to consume all this. Go in there with a game plan, and it just takes that little bit of stress away from you whilst you're racing. It's going to be hard enough as it is. So figure out your numbers, figure out how much carbs you can tolerate per hour, how much sodium and electrolytes you can tolerate whilst you're running, walking in that hour, 2 hour, 3 hour mark. That's what your training's for. Figure out what works for you. Go out and smash it, and once you finish it, see if you can do things better. So I might try tailwind next time to see how it sits, and all that sort of stuff. But that's the biggest thing I want to highlight is my breakdowns, and what worked for me might not work for you, but the biggest thing I want to let you know is just practice it in training, long runs practice, all that sort of stuff. Was that what the aid stations had, and why I carried the extra tab of Hydrolyte. So this is a bit of credit scene action here. So I wasn't sure exactly what they were going to have at the aid station. We knew they were going to have chips and lollies, all that sort of stuff, but I wasn't exactly sure how much we get access to. And I knew we were going to have electrolytes there, but I wasn't sure what brand. So I carried the Hydrolyte with me. So when I got to the first checkpoint, I popped one of my Hydrolytes into a bladder, and then I filled the other one up with what they had. If I didn't like it, or it didn't sit well, I would just smash mine and then try to get through that as best I could. Then from there, I just filled up the 250 mils with just water, because it can get a bit average after just having lolly water. So I alternated being a sip of Hydrolyte, electrolytes, and water with water itself. And then at the aid station, turns out they had heaps of chocolate in that, so I just grabbed that. I didn't consume all this within the first 4 hours. Well, I consumed all the hydration, but I didn't consume all the lollies. But that just meant that I had more to consume through the race. So I was good to go for that period of time. Cheers.